It's the International Soccer Preview, and we are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 28, looking at the groups and teams of the 2024 Copa America. This episode is looking at the players of Paraguay. Here we go! Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 28 on the players of the 2024 Copa America. This episode covers Paraguay's players. We're doing this mediacast in two parts. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examined the participation of players in games over the recent period, give a little biographical information, especially on the more likely ones, and we consider a couple of other factors that has us placing them into categories like definite, likely, possible, and so on. Part two will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad is selected. And at that time, we'll go back over the list we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode will have three sections. Section one, we will look at some general information on the team. In section two, that's the main part, we cover the main candidates in each position and their likelihood of making it, giving a little career information on the players there. And in section three, we summarize and conclude and also try to predict starters. Let's begin then. Section one, some general information on the team. So we have some retirements for Paraguay since the last tournament they played in, which was the 2021 Copa America. And we see Anthony Silva, not necessarily a retirement, but kind of off the squad. Anthony Silva, the goalkeeper, is now 40 years old. He had been with Paraguay since 2011 with 56 caps. And was part of the tournaments, all tournaments since the Copa America Centenario in 2016. That would be three tournaments in all then, including the 2019 and the 2021 Copa America. He was a starter in that 2021 Copa America and actually did appear in the period that we're looking at here, but has not appeared for the team since June 2023. So Anthony Silva, we don't expect to see. Just a couple of other candidates who were starters in the 2021 Copa America. So Santiago Arzamendia, part of the 2019 and 2021 Copa Americas, was a starter, but last appeared for the team in September 2026. Angel Romero is also a starter in the 2021 Copa America. That was his first tournament, but hasn't appeared for the team since June of 2022. So Angel Romero, again, not necessarily retired, but off the team, as it were. Let's take a look at our next section here then. That's club affiliations. Let's look at the top players in each position here and the clubs that they play for, and they probably represent a class of players in that group. So we begin with goalkeepers. Actually, not much experience in terms of caps here. We have Roberto Junior Fernandez just with 18 caps and Carlos Coronel just with 9 caps. Roberto Junior Fernandez plays for Botafogo in Brazil, and we do have several players playing in Brazil. It seems like moving from Paraguay to Brazil or Argentina is kind of the path towards bigger teams for them. So we have in Brazil Palmeiras, Grêmio and Vasco da Gama, top teams like that represented. Not as top in Argentina. We do have Newell's Old Boys and San Lorenzo, but a lot of them with teams smaller than that. On to defense. We have Gustavo Gomez. He's the captain with 74 caps. Well, we covered his type of team. He's with Palmeiras in Brazil. So let's look at Junior Alonso with 54 caps. He plays for Krasnodar in Russia, and they do have several players playing in Russia. He, along with 2 players for Dynamo Moscow and 1 with Spartak Moscow. Moving to the midfield, we have Miguel Almiron, 56 caps for him. He plays for Newcastle in England. So we do have some players getting over to Europe, not for top clubs, but maybe for kind of Newcastle will probably be the top club, but usually smaller clubs like Getafe, and we do have Brighton and Hove Albion also in England represented. They're probably smaller than Newcastle. Not that many in Europe, though, apart from the ones in Russia that we mentioned. Really only Torino in Italy represented. And then, of course, we have... I should have mentioned Carlos Cornell with the New York Red Bulls, because they do have quite a number of players playing, about 20% in the USA or in Mexico or Canada, kind of North American players. So for some of the top teams there, like New York Red Bulls, Club America in Mexico, Vancouver Whitecaps in Canada. And then we have about a third of the players playing in Paraguay, and Libertad is the biggest club or the most represented club here. And generally the path is to play for the top club in Paraguay and then try to move on to a bigger league like Brazil, North America or Europe. Okay, that is a look at the club affiliations. Let's move on to the next section, and we have recent games. So we are looking at the games from the beginning of 2023 for Paraguay, and for most teams that extends to March 2024. However, Paraguay did not play any friendlies in March 2024. That leaves us as a bit of a loss because it'll be 6 months between when they last played and when we look at them in their warm-up games. And they've had a new manager come in from the beginning of November, so obviously he'll make some changes. So they're a bit of a black box for us right now. Paraguay played only 8 games in this period from the beginning of 2023 to March of 2024, and I will go over those games here. So they had friendlies, just one in March of 2023 and one in June of 2023, so they're giving us little evidence there. And then they launched into their World Cup qualifying campaign with 2 games in each of September, October and November. So just the 8 games to look at there. And a little later, we'll look at the formations in those games. As far as international competitions go, Paraguay hasn't made it to a World Cup in recent times. It's just the Copa Americas, which they qualify for automatically. So we have the 2015 Copa America, the 2016 Copa America Centenario, which is a lot like this tournament, with some North American teams involved for a 16-team tournament. And then the 2019 and the 2021 Copa Americas as far as tournament goes. All right, let's move on to the next section and formations. So we really only have the 8 games to look at, and 4 of them are under the old manager and 4 of them are under the new manager. So I think I made a mistake and said the new manager was in November, but he actually was in for the October games. For formations, we have the old manager using a 4-3-3 formation in 3 of the 4 matches that he was in charge of. After that, after the new manager came in, he used a 4-2-3-1 formation in 2 of his 4 games. And overall, in 3 of the other games, 1 under the old manager and 2 under the new manager, we see different formations, so just each used 1 time, so we have the 4-3-3. Well, that was their most used formation, but again, it was under the old manager. We have the 4-2-3-1 kind of preferred by the new manager, but only used half the time. And then 3 different formations, which we'll mention as it becomes relevant throughout the mediacast, or as we introduce the positions and the players. But I will mention here that only one time did they use 3 at the back, and that was in the first game under the new manager. Then he went back to what the old manager has used, which was 4 at the back. Okay, so we'll look at that as we go through the tournament. Upcoming games, well, we don't have any March games to look at, so we'll be particularly interested in the warm-up games. And Paraguay has 3 of them. Most teams have 2, and they have those games in the USA, where the tournament is being held. Paraguay, a bit of an exception, with 3 games, all of them away games, but in the countries of the teams that they're facing. So we have them facing Peru in June 7th, Chile on June 11th, and Panama on June 16th, all of those in the countries mentioned. So again, we won't be so interested in the scores in this player podcast, but in the lineups for those tournaments, especially since we won't see much under the new manager. Just 4 games to look at under the new manager. Let's start looking at them and talk about that new manager. Well, we'll talk about the management in general in the summary, but let's look at the new manager. It is Daniel Garnero. He was a soccer player himself. He had 1 cap for Argentina in 1995 and played mostly in Argentina, but also in Mexico and Chile. As a manager, he became manager of Paraguay since 2023, and he has a lot of experience managing teams, mostly in Paraguay recently, and then in Argentina in the past. He is Argentinian. So we have him with Libertad, Olimpia, and Guarina and Sol de America in Paraguay, those 4 teams from 2015 to 2023, and then various teams, I won't actually go into the names, in Argentina. And they tended not to be that big team, very big teams. The last one was Independiente Rivadavia in Argentina. I think the biggest team there is Banfield in Argentina, and he was an assistant manager at Independiente. That was his first job in 2006. Okay, so here we are. No, that wasn't his first job in 2006, but I won't linger. He was an assistant manager for 3 teams. So Daniel Garnero, let's look at kind of the summary of the position, which is actually a bit of a history of the management over the last little while. So Paraguay had finished a respectable 7th in World Cup qualifying for the 2018 World Cup. That was under Juan Carlos Osorio, and also a respectable quarterfinal finish in the 2019 Copa America. There they went out on penalties to Brazil, and that was under Eduardo Berizzo. They also went out on penalties at the quarterfinal stage of the 2021 Copa America under Eduardo Berizzo. However, in 2021, it was to Peru rather than Brazil, so a bit less satisfying there. Berizzo had a decent start to 2022 World Cup qualifying. They were in 6th place, but then suffered a 0-4 loss in Bolivia in October of 2021, and that cost Berizzo his job. Getting rid of him, though, didn't help. New manager Guillermo Barros Schleto was installed 5 days after that loss to Bolivia, so that was in time for the November games that year, but they ended up dropping to 9th place under Schleto and finishing 8th in the group. Schleto nevertheless stayed on despite that finish and started World Cup 2026 qualifying with them in September here. However, after a loss to Venezuela in their 2nd match in September 2023, Schleto was fired. Before the end of the month, the current manager, Garnero, was installed, so that was in time for the October and November games. And his record is 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 win, 1 draw, and 2 losses. And again, no friendlies were scheduled for March. One would think that Garnero would like time to look at the team and players through playing friendly games, but no friendlies in March, as we saw 3 warm-up friendlies scheduled for June. So that is Daniel Garnero, the manager. And let's move on to the players now and begin with goalkeepers. So we have 3 goalkeepers, none at the definite level, but 3 at the likely level. The first is Juan Espinola, the second Santiago Rojas, and the third Carlos Coronel. Here we also have, we'll mention 3 players actually who are off the squad. Anthony Silva, who we mentioned in section 1, he was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, but hasn't appeared since June 2023. We also have Alfredo Aguiar. He was on the bench for the 2021 Copa America, a backup keeper. He hasn't played since September 2022. And we have Gerardo Ortiz, also a backup keeper in the 2021 Copa America, but not appearing until or since November 2021, so not long after the Cup there. So all of those players from the 2021 squad off the squad now, and we're just left with these 3 likely candidates. So let's look at them. Juan Espinola is 29 years old, 1 cap for Paraguay since 2022, and plays for Olimpia in Paraguay, but he did play for Godoy Cruz in Argentina before that. He hadn't started any of their 8 games since the start of 2023, but he was on the bench for the last 6 matches, so looks like he could be a backup keeper. Santiago Rojas is 28 years old. He has 2 caps for the team since 2022, and he plays for Atlético Nacional in Colombia since 2024, and was with Tigre in Argentina before that. And he got his first appearance on the bench way back in 2018, actually, but then kind of rejoined the team in January 2022. Since the start of 2023, Rojas has started 1 of their 8 games and was on the bench for 7 others. Third likely candidate, Carlos Coronel, is 27 years old, 6 caps for the national team since 2023. So joining a bit later than the others, but kind of taking the starting position, it seems. Carlos Coronel plays for New York Red Bulls in USA since 2022, and was with Red Bull Salzburg in Austria as well. So a bit part of the Red Bull team, the Red Bull system there. He was born in Brazil and actually started with the Red Bull Brazil Youth Club in 2013. So Carlos Coronel got his first appearance in September of 2023 and started all 6 of their remaining games, so has abruptly become their starting keeper. I think I'll change the order of the list here, because it looks like Coronel is top of the list, Santiago Rojas second, and Espinola in 3rd place. But those are the only kind of viable candidates right now. So it looks like all 3 of them will be selected, unless one of the players from the 2021 Cup is recalled. Okay, let's move on to the defenders, central defenders, and we'll begin by just talking about the position here. So always a 4-man back line for Paraguay, so we're looking for 2 central defenders. There was one exception to that, actually. That was the first game under the new manager. There he tried a 3-man back line, and he didn't stick with it, so went back to the 4-man backline that the previous manager had also used. So we're looking for 2 central defenders and a right winger and a left winger. Let's look at the candidates here. We have Captain Gustavo Gomez as a definite candidate, and then we have actually two candidates who we've moved to other positions. So Junior Alonso moved to left back, and Robert Rojas moved to right back, because that is where they have appeared the most during this period. So we won't look at them until we get to those positions. For central defence, our next candidate then is likely candidate Fabian Balboa. Fabian Balbuena, I should say, and Omar Alderete, two likely candidates there. And then we have a possible, but no, we have a player seemingly off the squad in Bruno Valdez. And I'm going to actually add some players that we weren't going to introduce here, but since they only have the three candidates here, and teams usually bring 5 or 6, we think either they're going to bring back players that seem to be off the team, or they will bring in new players. So we'll just throw out some names here and then introduce them. If they are selected in part 2, we'll introduce them. So in addition to Bruno Valdez, we have David Martinez. We'll put him in the retired section, kind of more off the squad for a longer term. He last appeared in June of 2022. He was on the squad for the 2021 Copa America, David Martinez. We'll also put Saul Salcido, last appeared in September 2022. Roberto Fernandez, last appearing in September 2022. He plays for Dynamo Moscow in Russia there. And also Mateo Gamera. He got his first start in September 2022, but last appeared in June 2023. So he's the most recent of them, but probably the least likely. So all of those players, either seemingly off the squad or off the squad longer term. And we'll just leave them as names in case they come back. Let's look at the ones who are active, though, and are more likely. Gustavo Gomez, captain of the team, is 31 years old with 72 caps and 4 goals since 2013, and he plays for Palmeiras in Brazil since 2019, but he was with AC Milan in Italy from 2016 to 2019, and he, despite being with the team since 2013, didn't play in the 2015 Copa America, but he was selected and was a starter for the 2016 Copa America Centenario. So he has been at all tournaments since the 2019 and 2021 Copa Americas, captain for both of those tournaments, and had started all 8 of their games since the start of 2023. So Gustavo Gomez, an important leader on the team and a definite candidate here. Next, we have a likely candidate, Fabian Balbuena. He is 32 years old with 35 caps for the national team and 2 goals since 2015. 2015 Copa America was his first tournament. But he's never really been a starter. Only in the 2019 Copa America did he start, but then he lost his starting position after game 1. So Fabian Balbuena, not really a starter, but over the last period, he has started 5 of their 8 games and was on the bench for the 3 others. So Balbuena, a likely candidate here to be selected for the squad and possibly even a starter in this tournament. Omar Alderete is also a likely candidate. He is 27 years old, 15 caps for the national team since 2018, and he plays for Getafe in Spain since 2023 and was with Hertha Berlin in Germany prior to that. He was selected for the 2021 Copa America. That was his first tournament, despite being on the team since 2018. And he was just a substitute in that tournament, subbed into game 3 and actually started game 4 there. Alderete have started the last 3 of their 8 games here in the recent period and was on the bench for 4. So given that he started the last 3, he might be more likely even than Balbuena, but we'll leave the list the way it is. And then the other candidates we won't talk about. We'll just leave them as names on the list and come back to them if they are selected. So let's talk about the position in summary over the last 8 games. Gomez and Balbuena were the pairing in the first 4 games under the old manager. We saw that under the new manager, it started with a 3-man central defence. That was Gomez and Balbuena as well. And Junior Alonso was added as a 3rd defender. He's normally a left back in this period. However, from the 2nd October game for the last 3 games, Gomez remained, but his partner became Alderete. So a bit of a change of the guard there. And again, I wish we had the March games to look and see how that narrative developed, but we'll have to wait until the June games. Anyway, it looks like Gomez is a starter and Alderete making a bid for the 2nd starting position there. Let's move on to left backs, and we'll begin with a summary of the left and right back position then. So because it's always a 3-man defense, that is exactly the wrong thing to say, because it's always a 4-man defense. These positions are left back and right back, but we did see one-time use of a 3-man central defense, in which case these positions became left winger and right winger. So we'll look out for that in the one game. Let's look at the candidates. We have no definite candidates, but a likely candidate in Junior Alonso and also in Matías Espinosa. And then we have possible but unlikely Blas Riveros, and seemingly off the squad, Santiago Arzamendia. Actually, we'll put him in the retired section because he hasn't appeared since September of 2022. And we won't introduce him more than that unless he comes back into the squad here. Let's look at the candidates, though. Junior Alonso is 31 years old. He has 52 caps for the national team, 2 goals, and he's been with Paraguay since 2013. He plays for Krasnodar in Russia, and has also played in Brazil and France and Spain and Argentina. So a well-traveled player is Junior Alonso. Despite being on the team since 2013, it took him until 2019 to reach his first tournament. That's the 2019 and 2021 Copa Americas. He was a starter in both of those, and has since started, not since, but since the start of 2023, has started 4 of their 8 games and was on the bench for 4 others. So not necessarily a starter during this period, but a likely candidate, Junior Alonso. Next, we have Matías Espinosa. He's 27 years old, just 6 caps for the national team since 2019, and he plays for Libertad in Paraguay since 2016, has always played in Paraguay and always with Libertad, even since his youth club, actually. Matías Espinosa, he did play 2 games way back in October 2019, but was off the team for 2 years. For 2 years, he returned in 2021, then off the team for another 2 years. I'm getting more into the weeds than I wanted to here. Let's say he returned back to the team in October 2023, Matías Espinosa, and he started all 4 of their remaining games. So that's quite a comeback there for Espinosa, and we have him as a likely candidate here. Possible but unlikely, Blas Riveros. We won't go into detail on him. He was part of the squad for the 2016 Copa America Centenario, but not selected for the last 2 Copa Americas. He got a little look in here, starting 1 of their 8 games since the beginning of 2023, and was on the bench for 2, but he hasn't been selected for the last 4 matches. So Blas Riveros not likely here. Also, our retired candidate, I think we covered him just by saying what we said. So, again, more details to come if he's selected. Let's summarize the position of left back. Junior Alonso in the first 4 games And we saw actually Alonso was a central defender in that three-man defense of Game 5. In that same game, Espinosa played as the left winger. And in the 3 games after, he was the man in left defense. So he too seems to have seized the position. And I wish we could get the next chapter from the March 2024 games, but there were none. So next chapter coming in the June warm-up games. Let's go to the right back position. And here we have no definite candidates, one likely candidate in Robert Rojas. And 3 possible candidates in Alberto Espinola, Ivan Ramirez, and Juan Jose Cáceres. Okay, let's look at the wait, we have a possible but unlikely candidate in Ivan Pires. So let's look at the candidates now. And Robert Rojas is actually coded as a central defender, but he's been playing as a right defender in this period at least. He is 28 years old and has been with Paraguay since 2019 with 26 caps and 1 goal. Didn't make the Copa America in 2019, but did in the 2021 edition, where he just started and finished Game 4 there and subbed into Game 5, so not used that much. Robert Rojas has been injured. He had been injured for the last half of 2022 and then returned in 2023 to start 4 of their 8 games, as well as subbing in for 3. And he was suspended for the last match. So just a likely candidate, Robert Rojas here. And we have 3 possible candidates beginning with Alberto Espinola. He's 33 years old, but just a latecomer to the team since 2020 with just 12 caps and no goals there. He plays for Colón in Argentina and was in Paraguay prior to 2023. And he was a starter in the 2021 Copa America there. But recently was off the team until he returned in October 2023, so off the team for a year and a half before that, and started 1 of their remaining 3 games, and then was injured for the last 2 matches. He has recovered from that injury since, but we can only put him at the possible level, given that he has only basically 1 start in the last 2 years. So Alberto Espinola, a player requiring a bit of an update there in the June games. Next, we have Ivan Ramirez, also a possible candidate. Ivan Ramirez is 30 years old, but just 3 caps for the national team since 2017. He is in his second stint with Libertad in Paraguay. He was in Argentina for a bit there, and he was off the team for more than 5 years. He appeared for a couple of games in June 2017 and then came back in 2022. In the recent period, since the start of 2023, Ivan Ramirez has started 1 of their 8 games, and he was on the bench for the last one as well, but not selected for 6 matches. So that doesn't look that promising, but the fact that he was on the bench for the last game forces us to consider him a possible candidate, Ivan Ramirez. Next, we have Juan Carlos Cáceres. He was born in Argentina. Sorry, I should start with his age. He's 24 years old with 3 caps for Paraguay since 2023. Now I can say he was born in Argentina and has played for Argentinian clubs, Lanús currently in Argentina and Racing Club before that. He got his first appearance, Juan Jose Cáceres, in June of 2023, and he started 2 of their remaining 7 games. He was subbed in for 1, but not selected for 4 others. So Juan Jose Cáceres, just a possible candidate here. Finally, we have possible but unlikely candidate Ivan Pires. He's 35 years old. And I won't go into detail on him, but he has been part of many tournaments since the 2011 Copa America, despite having just 37 caps. The only one he didn't participate in was the most recent one in 2021 Copa America, but he has played for the team since then. He was subbed in for 2 games and on the bench for 1 in this period of 2023, but then not selected for the last 4 matches. So Ivan Pires kind of making an appearance, but not a strong bid. Really, we have 4 candidates ahead of him, I would say, for this period where they will choose probably 2 players. And we also have 2 players who we're not going to mention, but who have been involved with the team in the last couple of years anyway. So lots of players over here. But in fact, it seems to be an out-of-position player, central defender Robert Rojas, with the strongest bid. Let's summarize the position of right back. It was Rojas playing 3 of the 4 games under the old manager. The one where he didn't play right back was kind of interesting. It was a 4-4-2 formation, and he played the right winger role, while Cáceres played the right defender role. Under the new manager, Ivan Ramirez played the position in the first game, that position pushing up to a right winger in the 3-man back line. It was actually a 3-2-2-2-1 formation there. And so Ivan Ramirez as the right winger. After that, it was Espinola in the position, but he was injured for the November games, and Rojas and Cáceres each came back to play the position once. So again, we kind of need some more games to really get a sense of what is happening over here, and perhaps we'll get more of an idea from the June friendlies there. All right, we move on up to the midfield and begin with defensive and central midfielders. Let's talk about the position a little bit. It is actually a 2-man position in all the formations that they used, except the 4-3-3 formation, where, of course, it's a 3-man position. But those were all under the old manager, and they used it in only 3 of the 8 games. So we'll mainly be focusing on the 2-man position here. Let's look at the candidates. For defensive midfielders, we have a likely candidate in Andres Cubas and a possible but unlikely candidate in Richard Ortiz, and a player seemingly off the squad in Gaston Jimenez. Let's take a look at these candidates. Andres Cubas is 28 years old with 18 caps and no goals for the national team since 2019. He plays for Vancouver Whitecaps right here in Canada, even though that's about 1,500 kilometers away from where I am. Cubas also played for Nimes in France and in Argentina, and in fact was born in Argentina, and he was part of the 2021 Copa America squad as a substitute, although he did start game 2 there. And over the recent period, Cubas has started 5 of their 8 games since the start of 2023. He was injured for 2 and not selected for 1. So we have Andres Cubas as a likely candidate here. Richard Ortiz, just a possible but unlikely candidate. He was part of the 2015 Copa America squad, but not part of any of the 3 tournaments after that. In the recent period, though, he did start 1 of their 8 games and was on the bench for 1. But not selected for 6 matches, including the last 4. So Richard Ortiz, possible but unlikely. Gaston Jimenez also has tournament experience. He was part of the 2021 Copa America squad. And he actually did return in October of 2023 after a 2-year absence. Didn't start any games, but he was on the bench for 2 and then not selected for the last 2 matches. So I think I'm going to move him up to a also possible but unlikely candidate, since he was part of the October games there not that long ago. So there we go, the defensive midfielders. Before we talk about the position, though, we'll look at central midfielders, because they interchange basically. So we have a definite candidate here in Matías Vilasante, Villasante, and we have three or four possible. No, we have about 5 or 6 possible candidates. Let's go. We have Diego Gomez. He is an injury doubt, as is the second candidate, Alvaro Campuzano. The third one is Brian Ojeda. Then we have Richard Sanchez, Matías Galarza, and Ernesto Caballero. All 6 of those players possible candidates. We also have, as a possible but unlikely candidate, Damian Bobadilla, and a couple of players who are off the squad. We'll just put their names out. A starter in the 2021 Copa America, Robert Pires, last appeared in the 2021 Copa America. We'll put him in the retired section, which includes kind of long-term players off the squad for a long time. Next is Angel Cardozo Lucena, also a part of the squad in the 2021 Copa America, but not appearing since September 2022. And Jorge Morel, also part of that squad, but not appearing since June 2022. So not likely that any of those players will come back, all of them off the team for 2 years or more now, and lots of candidates to choose from otherwise. So Matías Villasante is the definite candidate. Let's take a look at him. He's 27 years old and has 35 caps and no goals for Paraguay since 2019, and he plays for Grêmio in Brazil since 2021, was in Paraguay before that. And he was a starter in the 2021 Copa America. That was his first tournament, and has started 7 of their 8 games since the start of 2023. So Matías Villasante, a definite candidate. The first of our 6 possible candidates, Diego Gomez, just 21 years old with 7 caps for Paraguay since 2022, plays for Inter Miami in the USA, and first appeared in September 2022, and in the recent period has started 3 of their 8 games, as well as subbing in for 2. However, he is out with an ankle injury since late April and not expected back until June 30th. So that's close to the tournament, and we will update that in part 2. Perhaps he will make it back, Diego Gomez. Next, we have Alvaro Campuzano, and he's 28 years old with 4 caps since 2023 for Paraguay, no goals, and he plays for Libertad in Paraguay. He got his first appearance in June 2023, Alvaro Campuzano, and started 2 of their remaining 7 games, as well as subbing in for 2 and being on the bench for 1. However, he has been out with knee surgery since mid-May with an unknown return date. I think that seems less likely for a comeback in time than Diego Gomez. Alvaro Campuzano, then again, we'll update it, but looks to be out for this tournament. Our third possible candidate is Brian Ojeda. He's 23 years old with 9 caps for Paraguay since 2021 and no goals, and plays for Real Salt Lake in the USA. He played for Nottingham Forest in England, or it's at least on their roster. Before that, he was loaned out to Real Salt Lake in his second year of his time at Nottingham Forest. And Brian Ojeda was part of the squad for the 2021 Copa America, just on the bench there. In the recent period, Ojeda has started 1 of their 8 games, but was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3. However, the 3 matches he was not selected for were the last 3 matches, so that makes him a little less likely than probably some of the other candidates here. Richard Sanchez is our fourth of 6 possible candidates. Richard Sanchez is 28 years old. He has 33 caps and 1 goal for Paraguay since 2018, and was part of the 2019 and 2021 Copa America squads. I got ahead of myself a little bit there. His club is Club America in Mexico since 2019. And as we said, 2 tournament appearances. And in the recent period, Richard Sanchez has started 1 of their 8 games. He was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 2. And is probably a little bit ahead of Brian Ojeda there, appearing more recently. So we'll just move him ahead on the list here. And our 5th candidate, Matthias Galarza, 22 years old and 3 caps with the national team since 2022. Galarza plays for Vasco da Gama in Brazil since 2021. And he first appeared in September of 2022. And since the beginning of 2023, started none of their 8 games, but he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 4. But he did miss the last match, was not selected for the last match, Matthias Galarza. And finally, we have Ernesto Caballero, 33 years old, but newcomer to the team since 2023 with just 2 caps and no goals. Caballero plays for Libertad in Paraguay, but has played in... No, he has only played in Paraguay, but for several clubs. Caballero, no tournament experience, of course, since 2023 with Paraguay. So he got his first appearance just recently, game-wise, in November of 2023. So didn't start either of the remaining 2 games, but he was subbed in for both of them. So again, a player we probably have to look at in June to get a better sense of. Our possible but unlikely candidate is Damian Bobadilla, no caps for the national team for the 23-year-old. Plays for Sao Paulo in Brazil since 2024, moving there from Cerro Porteño, probably the 2nd biggest club in Paraguay there. And he got his first appearance, Bobadilla, on the bench in October 2023. He was subbed in for 1 and then not selected for the November game. So we have him as possible, but unlikely. The retired players will just leave as names on the list and say more about them if they're selected. Now we can go back and summarize the position of defensive and central midfielders. So the as we said, 4-3-3 was used under the old manager, but in 3 of the 4 games. We can envision Cubas in the middle and Villasanti as the right midfielder in those games, although in truth, Cubas and Villasanti switched the positions 1 time. As the left midfielder in that formation, it was Diego Gomez in the first 2 and Richard Ortiz in the 3rd one. The new manager eventually went back to the pairing of Cubas and Villasanti for the last 2 games in November, but in October he used Campuzano in his first 2 games. Okay, and then we have kind of summarized there. So in all of that, we do have 2 players who got 1 start over the 8 games, and that is Ojeda and Sanchez. Overall, though, Villasanti is the most used player here, so probably the one we think most likely. But it does look like the manager might use the combination of Cubas and Villasanti there. Okay, I am just moving on here to the left attacking midfield. So even though they did use the 4-3-3 formation, we have kind of included the left midfielder and right midfielder in that. For left midfielders, I do want to mention a name, although he's kind of well off the squad now, but we'll put him in the retired section, even though he's only 30. That's Derlis Gonzalez. Kind of had a good go with the team in the 2015 and 2016 Copa Americas, and was also part of the 2019 squad where he made less impact. But Derlis Gonzalez has not played for Paraguay since November 2022. So an outside chance of him coming back into the picture, but seemingly well off the squad now. Right midfielders, we have no candidates, so we're moving on upfield to the attacking midfield, and we're looking at left attackers. So this position is kind of our own creation. It covers left winger, left attacking midfielder, and left forward positions, depending on the formation. And in fact, Paraguay used formations where each one of those positions was used. We created this because we find it's often the same players, regardless of which formation it is. And that's going to be true on the right here. So let's look at the candidates. Actually, just one candidate at the one candidate here, but he is at the definite level. That is Ramon Sosa. So we'll go directly to a little info on him. Sosa is 24 years old, just 8 caps for the national team, no goals since 2022, and plays for Talleres in Argentina. And he got his first appearance on the bench just before the period we're looking at, in November 2022. And he started 5 of their 8 games over this period since the start of 2023, as well as subbing in for 2 games. The only game he missed was the second match in June of 2023. So he looks like a definite candidate to us, Ramon Sosa. That's it for left attacking candidates. Let's look at the position. So 2 players in single starts covered the first 2 games, the friendlies in March and June of 2023. That was Almiron and Enciso. We're going to meet those players shortly. Sosa took over the position for all the World Cup games, World Cup qualifying games, I should say. He only missed one of those, and central midfielder Diego Gomez covered the position in that case. So Ramon Sosa looking like a strong candidate here. And let's move on to the right attackers. Here is where we meet Miguel Almiron, but you may be surprised that he's only a likely candidate here. We also have Matias Rojas is actually coded as a left midfielder, but we've moved him here since this is where he has primarily been playing. And the other name we mentioned on the left side there, Julio Enciso, also a bit surprisingly just a possible candidate, and also a possible candidate, Ivan Leguizamon. And we have a possible but unlikely candidate in Jesus Medina, and then a player seemingly off the squad, Antonio Barrero. Not to be confused with the forward Adam Barrero, who we'll be meeting soon. Actually, we're going to put Antonio Barrero in the retired category because he last played in the Copa America in 2021 where he was a substitute, so very unlikely to return here. Let's look at the candidates that we have. Miguel Almiron is 30 years old now. He has 53 caps and 7 goals for Paraguay since 2015, and he plays for Newcastle in England since 2019. He did well with Atlanta United in the USA prior to that, which earned him his move to Newcastle, and has been part of the national team tournament since the Copa America Centenario in 2016, and has been a starter in the 2 tournaments since 2019 and 2021 Copa America. An important player for them he has become. Almiron started 5 of their 8 games since the beginning of 2023. He was injured for 1, but not selected for the last 2 matches, which is surprising, and that's why we have him as just a likely candidate. But it would be shocking indeed if he wasn't selected for the squad. So personally, I see him as a definite candidate. The other likely candidate is Matias Rojas. He's 28 years old with 18 caps and 1 goal for Paraguay since 2019. He plays for Inter Miami in the USA since 2024 and was with Corinthians in Brazil before that, and also Racing Club in Argentina for 4 years from 2019 to 2023. Matias Rojas was part of the squad for the 2019 Copa America, just on the bench. Well, at least for the first game, and then got a starting position after that, but was not selected for the 2021 Copa America. And but in the recent period, since the beginning of 2023, Rojas has started 4 of their 8 games and subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 3 others. So always selected is Matias Rojas. Next, we have our 2 possible candidates. The first of which is Julio Enciso. I don't know what's wrong with my mouth here. And Enciso has only played 2 games, once as a left attacker and once as a co-forward, but we'll leave him here because he's encoded as a right winger. Enciso is just 20 years old, with 11 caps and no goals for the national team, but has been part of the squad since 2021. He plays for Brighton in England since 2022 and was with Libertad in Paraguay before that. So he was part of the 2021 Copa America, just a substitute in that tournament. But over the last year, or since the beginning of 2023, he has started only 2 of their 8 games. However, that is due to injury. He was injured for the last 6 matches, so that explains why he has or is only at the possible level. He has recovered from that injury, so I think really he is a stronger candidate than just possible, really one of their better players. The other possible candidate is Ivan Leguizamo. He is 22 years old, just 1 cap for the national team since 2023 and playing for San Lorenzo in Argentina. He got his first appearance in November 2023. So just for the last game that they played, he was subbed in at halftime, and we kind of have to put him on because of that recent participation. But we'll really have to wait to see until June if he becomes part of the squad. Jesus Medina is 27 years old, just 1 cap for the national team since 2017. So part of the picture for a while, but kind of on the outside looking in. He has played for both Spartak Moscow and CSKA Moscow in Russia over the last 2 years, and was with New York City FC in the USA for 3 years before that, and didn't start any of their games, but he was subbed in for the first one, on the bench for the next one, and not selected. Not the next one, on the bench for 1 and not selected for the last 4 matches. I probably gave too many details on Jesus Medina there, but he is a possible candidate, though unlikely. And yes, we've talked about Antonio Barrero, and so let's go back and summarize the position. So it was Matias Rojas in the first 2 games. And then Almiron took over the position for the World Cup qualifiers and started the first 2, and that didn't change under the new manager, at least for the first 2 games in October. However, in November, Almiron was not called up, and Sanabria played the first game, and Matias Rojas played the second, kind of coming back into the position there. Okay, let's go on to the central attacking midfield position. We'll talk about the position first because they don't often use it. Actually, only in the first 2 games did their formation use this position. Sorry, only in 2 games. That's why I was confused. Did they use this position? That was the third and the second last games. Where they used the 4-2-3-1 formation. So anyway, we nevertheless have candidates here. In fact, Miguel Almiron is coded as a attacking midfielder, but we moved him to the right attacking position. Here we have Alejandro Romero Gamera as a likely candidate. And after that, Oscar Romero, the only other candidate here, seemingly off the squad, and we'll deal with him quickly here. We'll actually put him in the retired section. Oscar Romero, part of tournaments since the 2015 Copa America, part of all tournaments there, and mostly as a substitute rather than a starter, but last appeared for the team in June 2022. So Oscar Romero doesn't seem a likely, or doesn't seem or very much an outside chance of coming back here. Let's look at Alejandro Romero Gamera, who is a likely candidate. He's 29 years old with 18 caps and a healthy 5 goals since 2018. And he plays for Al Ain in the UAE there, and was in Saudi Arabia for a couple of years before that as well. Romero Gamera was part of the 2021 2021 Copa America squad. He was a starter in games 1 and 2, but lost his starting position after that. And was actually off the team prior to this period for 16 months, but he came back at the beginning of the period in March 2023, and Romero Gamera started 1 of their 8 games there, subbed in for 3, and was on the bench for 4. So it doesn't look like much of a starter there, partly because they don't use the position, and but always selected. Let's summarize the position of central attacking midfielder then. It was Romero Gamera filling the position in the last game in October, but in the first game in November it was Matthias Rojas, who we've just met as a right attacker, filling the position there. Okay, that is the midfield, and we move on to forwards. We actually don't have any players coded as secondary strikers, so we go directly to centre forwards. And you may notice a bit of a dearth of definite candidates here. I guess that's partly because the manager changed and some positions, or some players in positions changed alongside of him. It's true of this position too, where we have no definite candidates, but we have 3 likely ones. Gabriel Avalos is the first likely candidate. Next is Adam Barrero, and the third is Antonio Sanabria, who we mentioned as playing as a right attacker, I think, in one November game there. We also have a possible candidate in Hector Villalba, although he does have an injury concern. And then we have 3 possible but unlikely candidates. The first, Oscar Cardoza, then Carlos Gonzalez, and then Robert Morales. And then a couple of players who are off the team, and Angel Romero. I'll maybe deal with these ones right away here. Angel Romero was a starter in the 2021 Copa America, but hasn't appeared since June of 2022. And we have Brian Samudio, a substitute in the 2021 Copa America, not appearing since February 22. So very much an outside chance there. We also have 2 other players who we won't mention that have been involved over the past few years. But let's look at the ones who have been involved more recently. The likely candidate, Gabriel Avalos, is 33 years old, just 16 caps and 2 goals for the national team since 2021, so a bit of a late joiner there. He plays for Independiente in Argentina since 2024. And has a long list of teams, actually, mostly in Argentina. He was a starter, Gabriel Avalos, in the 2021 Copa America, at least in 3 of their 4 games. And in the recent period, started 5 of their 8 games and subbed in for 3 others. However, he had been off the squad for long gaps in the year and a half prior to the Cup. So we're not fully confident that he's a starter, although recently has been heavily involved. So Gabriel Avalos, the first of our three likely candidates. Next is Adam Barreiro. Again, not to be confused with the right attacker Antonio Barreiro, who is now off the team. Adam Barreiro is 28 years old and has 3 caps for the national team since 2023. So like Avalos, also a latecomer to the team. He plays for San Lorenzo in Argentina, does Adam Barreiro. That's his second stint with them, actually. He played for Monterrey in Mexico in between his 2 stints. 4 years with Monterrey. He's also played in Turkey. Adam Barreiro got his first appearance in October 2023, but started 3 of their remaining 4 games there. So not selected for 1 game, but kind of that recent participation makes him seem a likely candidate. We'll have to turn to the June games to see if he is able to keep that up. Finally, we have Antonio Sanabria as a likely candidate. He is 28 years old, 32 caps since 2013, and just 3 goals, so a bit of a low output there for a forward. Sanabria plays for Torino in Italy since 2021, also has a long list of clubs he's played for, including Roma in Italy from 2014 to 18, and for Barcelona B in Spain. As well. Part only of the Copa America Centenario in 2016, not selected for any tournaments other than that since his start in 2013. And Sanabria was off the team prior to this period too, a 20-month absence, so a little less than 2 years, but returned in October 2023 and started 2 of their remaining 4 games, as well as subbing in for the 2 others. So it looks like in this position, the manager is really bringing in some new names, or else kind of recycling names from the past, in the case of Sanabria. We have 1 possible candidate, that's Hector Villalba. He is 30 years old with just 4 caps for the national team since 2018, and he returned from a 4.5-year absence in October 2023. Didn't start any games, but was subbed in for 2, and then injured for the last 2 matches, and may still be carrying that injury. He's out with a cruciate ligament tear since November 2023, or perhaps earlier, sometime after October 2023, and has an unknown return date. I'm not sure we have all the information on him, which is why I say he may be out with an injury. But also true is that he may recover in time for the tournament, since that injury is from around November 2023. We'll have to see. So again, another player who the manager is kind of bringing in. And the players who are moving out are the ones in the possible but unlikely category here. Oscar Cardozo is a veteran for the team. He's 41 years old with 58 caps. I won't go into detail, but his resume goes back way farther than any other player we've looked at, to the 2007 Copa America. He was part of their World Cup 2010 squad as well, but not selected for many tournaments after that, just the 2019 Copa America. And he came back basically to sub into 1 game, and was on the bench for 1 game in October of 2023, and then not selected for the last 2 games. So that's really reaching back into the past by the manager there. So he's actually not one of the players kind of who seem to be on their way out. But one that is Carlos Gonzalez. He was part of the squad in the 2021 Copa America, and he has He was subbed in for 2 games and on the bench for 1 during this period, but not selected for the last 4 matches. So it's one of the players who seems to be under consideration or moving out of the team. Robert Morales, we'll just put as a name here. He was also not selected for the last 4 matches. And Angel Romero, we've dealt with the 2 players who are off the squad. So a lot of candidates there, but no really likely candidates. I guess we'd have to say Gabriel Avalos is the most likely at this point, but we definitely need to look at the June games to see what we can expect in the Cup. That does bring us to the end, though, of our look at the players. So we move on to section 3 and any closing thoughts. Well, what we have here is really a need to look at, we needed to look at the friendlies in March of 2024 to get a sense of what the new manager has in mind. So we've only seen 4 games under the new manager. However, there were no games in March of 2024, surprisingly, because you would think he would need that time to look at his squad. We have to wait until the 3 friendlies that they've scheduled in the warm-up games before the tournament to get any further light on this. So we do have a lot of players, or several players, kind of coming in and out at the end there. So it's very unsettled at the moment. Let's move on to the review of starters. I'm just going to pause before we do that to set it up. Okay, here we are back at the top of the page, but I realized I forgot to summarize the position of forward. So before we race through the list that we've created and try to nominate starters, I'm going to summarize the position of forwards. Only in 2 games did Paraguay have a 2-man forward position. In the favored 4-3-3 formation that they used under the old manager, we consider it a single forward with a left attacker and a right attacker. So just the centre forward here, and the players in the position, Avalos played the position in the first 4 games under the new manager. He was joined by Enciso, the player we put as a right attacker, in game 2. That was the friendly in June 2023. Barrero was used in 3 of the 4 games under the new manager, but he was replaced by Avalos in the second last game, and in the last game he was paired with Sanabria as a 2-man forward line. Okay, now we are ready to look at the candidates, and just let me get positioned here. Okay, we're going to say that manager Daniel Garnero won't be dismissed before the tournament begins, so we will consider him a starter, as it were. For goalkeepers, it looks like Carlos Coronel, despite his inexperience, just 6 caps, will be the starter. The other candidates have fewer caps yet, so I wouldn't be surprised if they bring back, though, one of the veterans at least to be on the bench for this squad. That is a pretty inexperienced group of likely candidates we have. Moving on to central defence, we think Gustavo Gomez will be a definite starter, the captain of the team, and we think Omar Alderete is making a bid to be a starter. It could be Fabian Balbuena, but we actually think Omar Alderete looks a little more likely at this point, but we're only going to put that in a blue highlight to indicate that we don't have full confidence in that. Moving on to the left back, well, the new manager has been favouring Matías Espinosa, so we would have to say he looks the more likely, but we personally think that Junior Alonso still has a chance of being the starter, even though Espinosa played the last 3 games under the manager let's say, under the new manager. But we'll have to see. I'm particularly looking forward to the June games to see if Junior Alonso can make it back in as the starter. The right back position is far less settled, though, and we really don't know. Espinola seemed to be the manager's choice, but he was injured for the November games, and so it leaves things up in the air. So we're not going to nominate a starter at the right back position here. And Robert Rojas has played the position the most, so we think he also has a chance of being the starter. In the central defensive and central midfield, always a two-man position under the new manager. So we're going to nominate central midfielder Matthias Villasante as a definite starter, and Andres Cubas as a likely starter. We're a little less confident about him than we are about Villasante. Up to the left attacking midfield, well, we only had one candidate. Sorry, where am I in my graphics here? We only had Ramon Sosa as a candidate, so we will nominate him as a definite starter. However, when we move over to the right side of the field, we may get a challenge to Sosa's starting position in Miguel Almiron and Julio Enciso. Even though Almiron is just at the possible level and wasn't selected for the November games, we see him as an important player, and so we definitely think he'll be selected, and we also think he's almost certain to be a starter. So Miguel Almiron, but where he starts may depend, because we also think Julio Enciso has a good chance of being a starter too. We'll put him in blue highlights. He's just a possible candidate here, but we think he'll be a more important player than just that. And it could be that because both of them can't play this position, that either or both of them might move around to other positions on the field. For example, we did see Julio Enciso playing as a left attacker and as a co-forward in his two starts. So he may be fairly versatile on the field. Okay, the position of central attacker is not really used that much. Alejandro Romero Gamero is a likely candidate, but we don't really see him as a starter. So no one there. Again, Enciso or Almiron may be found in this position if it comes to that. For the forwards, we have right now, it looks like Adam Barrero is the most likely candidate, having started most recently under the new manager. But we still think Gabriel Avalos has a chance. However, for this position, we think the manager may be undecided in who his forwards are going to be, and is still trying out new players for the position. So we may see players like Enciso coming in, and for this and other positions, we may see players coming in out of the cold, either players who are kind of off the squad now brought back in, and we did see that in the late games for the forward position, or just some brand new candidates brought back in who have performed well, because it is a long time since November, so there have been, you know, a half a year for players to emerge who might be called up to the June warm-up games and tried out there. So we think all of those things are possible. Let's do a review of injuries. So we have, as a close call, Diego Gomez, the central midfielder who we have at the possible level. He's out with an ankle injury since late April, not expected back until June 30th, but if they really value him, they may select him and hope that he recovers after the first or second game. We will have to see, and we'll update that in part 2. We also have central midfielder Alvaro Campuzano, who the manager seemed to favor actually, but he's out for knee surgery since mid-May and an unknown return date. Our speculation is that he wouldn't make it back in time. We have forward Hector Villalba, out with a cruciate ligament tear since November 2023, perhaps a bit earlier, and an unknown return date. But we think that, you know, maybe he will recover in time, but we'll have to update that. And that is it. Yes, we'll have to wait until the part 2 to get a sense of that. So that brings us to our last order of business here, looking at part 2. I think we're going to see interesting things under the new manager for Paraguay here. For reasons I've talked about in the main part. Anyway, when we get to part 2, that'll be after the final squads are published, so we will know who is on the team, and we'll point out any notable non-selections, so any definite or likely candidates here who were not selected, and any surprise inclusions, which could be players brought back in from the cold, or any new players. We're actually expecting a few of each of those. And then we will update those injuries because we'll be a bit closer to the cup. So I hope that you have, I hope, what do I hope? That brings us to the end of the mediacast, and hopefully we'll see you for part 2. We would like to thank Paul Udin and Pixabay for the wonderful background music accompanying this mediacast. The piece is called Victory Epic Music.